what was once thought of as the portal king. He's had to relinquish that title and even relinquished it himself in Lane Kiffin's Ole Miss and what he has done here recently. So Spencer Sanders, former Oklahoma State quarterback, has chosen to transfer to Ole Miss, to which, when this news happened, producer Tyler sent me a text going, what is Lane Kiffin doing? So we had to go and check that out, because now you have potentially 3 guys that could start for you on the roster. One of them is your returning starter in Jackson Dart, former National Gatorade Player of the Year, Jackson Dart. But obviously he was not so good that you did not feel like you needed to bring somebody else in to compete with him. That is what a Spencer Sanders does. And that's before we talk about Walker Howard, who chose to transfer from LSU to Ole Miss. And we expect all 3 to compete for the starting job for Lane Kiffin, which is another way of saying he's out here to win. It's also another way of saying, why am I going to waste my time recruiting a quarterback out of high school if I can just go get guys out of the portal that I know can play? Okay, that is one aspect of this. Another aspect of this is, why would Walker Howard and Spencer Sanders go to Ole Miss knowing what Jackson Dart is able to do? Well, if you ask Spencer Sanders, it's because he thinks he can beat him out. I think Walker Howard is thinking the same thing, but he's got the long game here, because we got 1 year eligibility for Spencer Sanders, this last one, right? We got 2 years of eligibility for Jackson Dart, but with the new transfer rules, you can't exactly just transfer away and expect to be able to be eligible right away, because they're trying to put that one down, trying to make you stay there for a couple of years or grad transfer. So Jackson Dart could perhaps graduate this spring if he is, or this summer if he's got that many credits. And then if he doesn't think he's going to win the job, go elsewhere. And then you got a Walker Howard who can probably bide his time and perhaps be Lane Kiffin's quarterback of the future. So I really think it's going to be Spencer Sanders versus Jackson Dart. But if nothing else, you got a great backup quarterback no matter what you do. That said, I don't think that Spencer Sanders is good enough to beat out Jackson Dart, because I've seen him throw the football away too many times, put the ball on the floor. That's just not what I want out of my quarterback. And there's a reason as to why Oklahoma State head coach Mike Gundy let Spencer Sanders walk. And not only did he let him walk, he brought in a guy that hasn't started a football game since the pandemic in one Alan Bowman, who's transferring from Michigan as grad transfer to Oklahoma State. You'll know his name because he was quarterback at Texas Tech, right? That is going to be their guy in 2023. This only is Spencer Sanders gambling on himself, and I respect the hell out of that, because I'm that type, right? I just don't know that I would have picked out Ole Miss, but who knows what kind of offers he was getting and from where he was getting those offers. Now, for Jackson Dart, go do what you know how to do. There's a reason that you want to transfer to Ole Miss. You want to play against SEC competition. Come to find out, you just can't throw on everybody in this league like, you could in USC. And you aren't the strength of it anymore. It is the tailbacks. I expect Quishon Judkins to get something like 250, 300 carries next year, because Lane Kiffin is the guy who will decide, no, I'm just going to put it all on Derrick Henry's back, give him 300 carries, or I'm going to throw the football to Amari Cooper 1,000,000 times. If that's what they do, you just need a quarterback back there that's not going to throw the football away, and it's going to take advantage of those one-on-one opportunities. If Spencer Sanders turns out to be that guy, great, but I still think that guy is Jackson Dart right now, and Walker Howard can become that guy in the future. Now, stockpiling transfer quarterbacks is also just an interesting move, and we'll talk about that at a later date in how we think that high school football and transfers are changing the way that quarterback recruiting is done. But it is worth asking, is this a better strategy than Ohio State, who notoriously has been very aggressive in recruiting quarterbacks out of high school? Kyle McCord comes out of St. Joe's in Philly. He bided his time. Devin Brown comes out of Canyon Corner in Utah, right? Like one Jackson Dart. My goodness, Quinn Ewers comes out of South Lake Carroll. It's there for just the year, but you get it. CJ Stroud comes out of Rancho Cucamonga. The only guy that Ryan Day has recruited that started as a transfer is Justin Fields. And that was his first year being the guy, right? He needed somebody that could do it right away, and he knew that Tate Martell was not the guy to get it done. Can't tell you how right he was about that. In this age of people not being able to identify quarterbacks and get that right, Ryan Day seems to be doing just fine with that. And if you can do that, I think you should. But I would much rather have guys on my depth chart that have been in my system for 2 or 3 years that inherit the job as much as they earn the job, when I have somebody else coming in that has to ingratiate themselves and then learn the offense and then get on the right page with everybody. I don't know that that's the best way to do it, but it also is indicative of beggars can't be choosers, right? And there are only about 5 programs right now in college football who get to choose. I would put Alabama in there. I'd put Georgia in there. Ohio State would be in there. USC because of what Lincoln Riley has been able to do. And then maybe we're talking about a Michigan. But outside of that, it's really difficult to make the argument that most Power 5 programs can just recruit out of high school and hope to hold on to their talent and not have to fill that void with a transfer quarterback. I think that most most head coaches would love to get high school guys, but holding on to them when they're not playing is becoming harder and harder to do unless you're at one of these institutions that wins national championships or puts quarterbacks into the first round of the NFL on the regular, which is why I capped the list at, I guess I'm capping it at 4. Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, and USC, because those folks know how to put quarterbacks into the first round of the NFL draft, and that's what you're after, that's what you're after as a quarterback. So also leads to another, really interesting phenomenon that nobody could have predicted even 5 years ago when the transfer portal first came into fruition, 2018. So I went ahead and looked up all the projected starters among the Power 5 plus Notre Dame, and producer Tyler and I put that together in an Excel sheet so that we could get the numbers right and see what we're looking at. And out of those 69 programs that make up the Power 5, 42 of them project to start transfers. 42 out of 69. That's ridiculous, right? And 25 schools are projected to start a quarterback out of high school. Just 2 are to be, determined. UCLA with Colin Schlee and Dante Moore. And then Virginia, we'll see, right? Because they got a guy that's throwing 95 miles an hour on a baseball diamond who's also going to be competing for a job. And the last guy that I knew that could do that and won is Kyler Murray, but that's because Kyler was always going to play both, right? He came there because he wanted to play both, or Oklahoma to play both. I think when we're looking ahead, this is just the way it's going to be. Now, the COVID year, I think, has a lot to do with what we saw in 2022 and what we're going to see in 2023, but most of those guys are going to age out here very soon. But I gave away the Frank Harris Award last year, right? I Love College Award. That dude's coming back for year 7. We got a player at Oregon who's in year 9. It is not uncommon now to see guys play 5 and 6 years of college football, even with 4 years of eligibility, either because they're redshirting or they have a medical hardship or they're grad transferring. There are all different ways for you to stretch that time that there weren't before, because we are coming to a space of giving the players more autonomy. That's also what name, image, and likeness is like. After the NCAA and, frankly, its member institutions decide to continue to kick the can down the road, NIL is the Wild West. Nobody's been able to wrap their arms around it or wrap their hands around it and understand what the regulations are, because there really aren't that many. And there's any other kind of way to get this money. So they are begging the legislative branch of the United States government to do their job for them. Meanwhile, the legislative branch got other problems. Solving name, image, and likeness ain't at the top of the list. Neither is solving the transfer portal. I think, however, that we're getting to a space where the windows are helping, because we're doing this show after the latest transfer portal window has closed, right? So the Monday before the championship games are played, we open the transfer portal. We close it on January 18th, 45-day window in the winter, and it's going to be a 15-day window, May 1st through the 15th. But those are only the moments when you can put your name in the portal. You can transfer at any time once your name is in the portal. So you'll hear about other guys committing to transfer all the time. But what is very cool is that now everybody knows when they're going. Now, as we got the early signing period in December, we got bowl games in December, we got championship games in December, we got transfer portal in December. We're all kind of feeling how crunched that time period is. And I expect to see some moving and shaking on that front. Perhaps the signing date gets moved up to like August, as opposed to December, and then we have another one in February. You got to remove something from the plate, especially as the college football playoff is expanding to 12 teams in about 2 years' time. And let's not forget, we got a 14-team league for the Big 12 for 1 year, and the Big 10 is going to go to what looks like 14 teams, 16 teams. I got to do the math again, producer Tyler. because I'm getting out of whack here. UCLA, USC are going to join the Big Ten after this year. So we got a lot of moving and shaking on all of this as we're trying to figure out what's next. But the idea that I can stockpile transfer quarterbacks is not one that I can dismiss out of hand. It's just what you got to do. Or you try to do, well, maybe the best of both worlds, right? Like Oklahoma has Dylan Gabriel coming back for another year, but they also secured Jackson Arnold, National Gatorade Player of the Year. The last guy to win National Gatorade Player of the Year, commit to play at Oklahoma and sign, Kyler Murray. If you can do both, I suggest do both. But right now, you just got to put together your roster, man. You have to act as if it is the NFL, which means that you're going to go through what, is early signing period and signing days, kind of like our NFL draft. And then you're going to go on the waiver wire, which is, our transfer portal. If you are a fan, though, and I've said this to my coworkers, I've said this to my close friends that love college football and love their teams, because nobody asked me about the sport of college football. They asked me about their team. Yeah, RJ, enough with all that. Tell me about Wisconsin, right? I get a lot of that. What I'm going to tell you is you should not care one iota about what the damn roster looks like in January through July. You got a good 7 months of getting to put that down. All right? There is no college football to watch during that period. None. Zip. Zero. Be a baseball fan. Ben Verlander's got a great podcast called Flipping Bets. Be a college basketball fan. We got Titus the Tate over there. Be a WWE fan. We got Ryan Satin over there. We have things that you can concentrate on that don't have anything to do with the two deep depth chart in January. All right? And I'm the National College Football guy saying that because it's going to turn over. It's going to turn over again in May. It's going to turn over again during the preseason when you're really going to lose your mind. And then it's going to get locked up and you're going to know what you have by September. But guess what happens in September? We start playing football again, guys. I say this often, but I'm going to say it again. I have the shortest regular season and the longest off season in any major American sport. Kind of sucks on that front because it just means I don't get to watch as many games as, say, 162 games in a baseball season. However, it does make me very good at telling you, don't worry about this. Calm down. It's okay. Thank you for watching the #1 college football show. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and like this video so that you don't miss any of the best college football coverage in America.